Hey everyone, so in this video we are going to take a look at the all-in-one Sprite shader. This is a mod that is available on the Unity store, and currently you can get this on Humble Bundle for just $1 USD. It is part of the Game and Game Dev Asset Unity bundle on Humble Bundle, and it's part of the $1 USD tier. So I typically try to cover free-to-use software for the gaming side of this channel, but $1 is pretty close to free. So if you've never used Humble Bundle before, it's just like any other digital store. You go there, you make the purchase. Sometimes the asset can be downloaded directly from them. Sometimes the asset is on another store, and in that case, what you're doing is you're buying a key. So you take that key they give you. It's a combination of letters and numbers, just like if you bought like a gift card. You go to Unity. There's a link that says redeem vouchers. You put that code in, and then you can then download that to any of your projects, because just as you're signed into Unity, the application, you're also signed into the store, and one syncs with the other. So once you've made that purchase, you can go up to Window, you go to Package Manager. Now up here, this may default to in project, okay? If it does, or Unity registry or built-in or whatever, you're going to want to change it to My Assets. So this will, like I was just saying, sync with the store, and anything you've purchased, whether it's free to use or a premium object, should show up here, okay? So as you can see right at the top, all-in-one Sprite shader. If you have not downloaded it yet, and the first time that you do this you haven't, you would click on the download button. Downloads it, as the name would suggest, to your computer. But it doesn't actually put it into the project yet. You then have to click on import. So you only have to download it once to your computer. Whenever you open a new project, though, you would need to import it into that project. I'm not going to go through that. I already have. No sense just staring at Windows showing that files are transferring. Don't want to waste your time. So it will create this folder. And in this folder, there is this helpful documentation, and it does link out to another YouTube series from them, and it does have some good troubleshooting, some of which I will mention here too. So what's going to happen, let's take this image and we'll put it into the scene. When you come over here to add component, you'll notice all-in-one Sprite shader. Well, that's not a typical component. That's why I'm saying that this is a mod. It's actually modifying Unity. So it's not that they gave you new assets per se, they actually modified the system itself to automate certain functionality. So we're going to click in all-in-one Sprite shader, add all-in-one shader. Of course, you have to put a banner here. And we're not going to go through all these, we're just mainly going to click on this arrow, and then we're going to go through some of the specific effects. There are two basic type of effects, at least how I would define them. One is a static effect, that as the application is running, the effect does not change. You've either warped the image or you've changed the color or whatever. And then there's animated effects, that as the application is running, you will see the effect change. So I will cover both types. And as far as the ones that are static, some of those can be animated over time. The typical way that you do animation, you add an animation component, and then you choose a keyframe, and then you just change some of the settings, which you'll see over here in a moment. And since it starts at one setting and goes to another, it will animate over time. So there is one bit of maintenance we actually need to do first. So if you click on shader, or shaded, excuse me, and you come down here to shaded wireframe, you can see that the foreground is defined by a wireframe. You see the mesh, okay? Well, a lot of these effects will actually modify the mesh. So since you don't have mesh surrounding the object, then you'll get an image cut off in ways that you don't want. So we want a mesh really on the entire image. So what we'll do, we will click on the asset itself as opposed to the object in the scene. And for mesh type, we're going to change this to full rectangle, click on apply, and now if we click on it again and we go to shaded, so you don't actually have to click on shaded. This part is just demonstrative purposes. You can now see that there's just one line go across the entire image, so not just the foreground, the entire image now has a mesh. Okay, so let's just start adding some effects, and this really isn't in any particular order. So let's go ahead and click on Hologram. Now, just so you know that when this is running, you can actually open up another window, another inspector window, and make changes in real time. Just be mindful that any changes you make while it's running will revert, and you always have to make sure which inspector window you're looking at. So, for instance, if I run this, and this is one of the effects that I mentioned that is animated by default, if I come up here to Window, and I go to General, and I go to Inspector, and I come down to this effect, I can see what each one does in real time. So stripes amount changes the size of the stripe, makes it much smaller. Unchanged area amount, it increases the space between them. Stripe speed, how fast is it moving? And the min alpha and max alpha has to do with translucence. You can certainly mess around with those if you want, but these are the main ones. And only problem with this, like I said, these changes will all revert. So if you have numbers that you like, you're going to want to save those. And while it's convenient to keep this window open, it's easy to get confused between which one is the one that actually makes the changes. Okay, so just like that, that was Hologram. And again, as I mentioned, you can actually have multiple effects running at the same time. So let's go to Wave. Again, we'll run this. And again, this is another animated one. We go to Window. We go to General. We go to Inspector. And we'll change those settings. So Wave amount. So there's a lot of things you could do with this. Maybe this is like a ghost and you want it to have like a distortion effect where it has this wave effect to it. Or maybe this is something that's underwater. And so you've got a little bit of distortion in front of it. You can do wave speed. Wave strength. Now something like this, maybe this is like a waterfall that's in front of the object, so you can see through the waterfall, but you got more distortion. You can mess around with X and Y axis. I'm not really sure exactly what it does. It might change the origin. Not 100% sure, but again, it's purely aesthetic. It's purely whatever you feel looks right. So we'll close that. And yes, it might sound redundant, but trust me, I've gotten confused where I've made a change and I made a change while it was running and lost the effect. So next one is round wave. So very similar. And this is instead, though, this is like as if maybe something has been tossed into the surface of the water. And in this case, maybe this is more like a reflection. It could be something under the water, but the effect makes it feel a little bit more like a reflection. Now, I mentioned the mesh. If we hadn't changed the mesh, these would actually cut off at abrupt edges on the side. So, but it displays more properly. It's just that the middle is a little bit thinner anyway, so you're still going to have that effect. Texture scroll. So you got the object sliding over. There's a lot of ways you could use this. Maybe you want to have something pass through another object, but you don't want to actually have to mess around with layers. Maybe this is part of a menu and you're scrolling through options. There's a lot of reasons why you'd want to use this. This is another one that would be messed up if we hadn't changed the mesh. Twist. Now this one is static. So this one we're going to show you how to animate some of these over time. So if I run this, okay, it's just static. It's not changing, okay? Now, the main one is probably twist radius because this reduces how much is affected by the twist, okay? So what we're going to do, we're going to animate twist radius over time, and this is actually super simple. And again, what we're about to show you doesn't apply just to all-in-one shader. You can do this with other aspects that can be changed, other parameters that can be changed in the inspector. So if we click on animation, it says to begin animating elephant, create an animator and an animation clip. So we click on create. We'll just call this Ellie. Save it. And as typically you would for animation, you need to click on record. Okay. So what we're going to do, we're going to come over here. So first of all, let's change the frame rate to like 30. Now let's come over here to like 140. And then what we'll do, we'll change the twist radius there. And then we'll stop. So watch what happens. If I bring this pointer back over and look at the first keyframe, this number is at 0.1. As you can see, it's changing. Okay, so I'm not going to go all the way over. So what you've done is you've changed this setting, this parameter over time. You could change the other ones as well. But this one I think is the most noticeable. So now what you've done is you've taken a static effect and now you're going to animate it over time. See? And you could apply other effects too, like maybe as it spirals, you also scale its size, things like that. And let's wrap this up with fade. I really don't want to go through all of these. I don't want to make a really long video. I think that at this point you will be able to make a determination as to whether you think this is easy enough to use and if you like the visual fidelity and that kind of thing. But let's do fade. So we put a check here. And what this does, depending on the effect, a few of the settings that you use, this will basically look like it burns away. So again, maybe it's a combat situation, you want something to burn away. But this is another one that you'd have to animate over time. So if we see how we change fade amount, it kind of like disappears. So again, this is basically there's several different things within Unity that make this happen. They combine it basically into a single slider. Okay, you can change like the fade burn width and things like that, but this is the main effect, the fact that it's kind of burning away. Okay, kind of a transition. So this is static. So if we do that, okay, it's a static effect. You can see how there's like a little outline. It's pretty impressive. But it'd be more impressive to see it to see it animated. Okay, so what we're going to do, bring that to 0 to point. Can we bring that to 0 even? Yeah. Okay, so we're going to animate that over time. So let's go to. Let's go back to animation, and let's just delete this effect. Okay. And actually, since we unchecked it, it probably wouldn't work anyways. I'm not too worried about that. Because again, these don't have to be mutually exclusive. I've chosen to do only one at a time so you can see the effect. But it'll be the same thing. So you're going to click on record. You're going to move to where you want your keyframe. And let's have this. Let's just do there. It doesn't matter. I'm just kind of eyeballing how long I want this to happen over. And we'll go all the way to 1. So the whole thing should burn away. Showing you the range. Now let's run it. It burns away. Okay, so I think that's about it for this tutorial. Like I said, I think that's really enough for you to get a sense of ease of use, as well as some of the specific effects. I mean, some of these speak for themselves. Outline, gradient, there was another one, distortion, which is very similar to water. And that's about it. So hopefully that this will help you make a decision as to whether or not you want to incorporate this into your programs. Again, as the time of recording, it is $1 USD, part of a Humble bundle, and the normal price, I believe, is $30. Not sure where it sells. Normally, I don't know if you can buy it from Humble at the normal price once that bundle expires. If you have any questions, just let me know. There is indeed technical support for this on their website, so it wouldn't be me. I'm just doing coverage of this because I purchased it. So any kind of actual technical support you'd want to go to them for. So again, I hope you found this helpful, and please enjoy the rest of your day.